All right, hello and good morning. My name is Austin Smith. This is my partner, Byron Ebert.
Nice to meet you all.
Mission Control. Mission Control is video game leagues for friends. We're creating a website where you or your friends can go on and just like fantasy baseball or rec league sports or college intramurals, you can have a recreational experience, but with using video games with your friends. So we've modeled the Byron's getting together. It's not working. There it is. So we're going to go to the next slide. Thank you. So we modeled this entire experience off of season-long fantasy sports. So you have fantasy football or fantasy baseball. Who's played one of those season-long fantasy experiences? So in each of those experiences, you'll have one person is the commissioner. They'll go onto the site. They'll create the league. Normally they invite 9 friends. They'll choose the sport that they're trying to play by choosing statistics the entire season. And then they'll create the league. When they're inviting their friends, next slide here, their friends will join. Normally it's around 6 to 9 people, 6 to 10 people in total. The friends join. What we do is we create a schedule and then set up the schedule for the kids or the people to play head-to-head in their video games. So that way, the very similar experience between fantasy baseball is the setup is the experience. The commissioner set up the same amount of people are playing as something like fantasy sports, but then you're actually playing video games head-to-head. So what we are kind of playing is in the middle of 2 kind of markets. You have the video game market, which you can see is a large 2.6 billion gamers in the world, $115 million market. $115 billion market, I'm sorry. On the other hand, we're also playing in the esports space. Esports is the competitive watching of video games. It's been blowing up a lot recently. You've seen probably the person Ninja thrown around. He's the guy who had the pink hair in a couple of the commercials at the Super Bowl. So he is a professional streamer that people just watch him and they enjoy watching him play video games. And he's not even on the competitive side, but then you have all of these professional leagues. All of this stuff is really exciting. It's growing quickly. You can see that on the right side. There's 380 million viewers across the world. It's a $1.65 billion market, and it's growing at a 26% year-over-year growth rate, which is very strong growth. So between these two ideas, we think that there's a market opportunity. In the national market alone, you have 200 million gamers, you have 50 million viewers in esports, and each of them are pretty significant market sizes, especially the video game market. But what we see is that everything right now and all the growth that is happening in esports is focusing, in video games and esports, is focusing on the professional gamer. Those people, those few people that are actually able to make it to this top echelon of competition. You have these professional leagues that are being bought by NBA teams and created by their owners. And all of the support networks that are out there are built to train and basically create competitions for these professional gamers. But what we see is that there's no structure beneath this professional level. There's some at the collegiate level. Thankfully in St. Louis, Maryville University is doing some pretty cool things around that. But there's not much below that. There's stuff for aspiring gamers, but not for people who like to play games but don't necessarily ever want to be in the professional sphere. I like to play beer league softball. I also play beer league soccer. And Byron and I even actually had a game last night. We pay $80 every 8 weeks at Veta to lose our soccer games. So, but we still enjoy doing it. And the point is because it's a social and recreational experience with our friends. So that's what we want to create for video gaming and esports. Take that large video game market that's much larger than the esports market alone, but use that kind of excitement and growth of esports as well. So we're creating essentially recreational video gaming. Some preferences. We did a couple surveys and looked into some research. The Pew Research Center said 78% of young teens say video games are what connects them to their friends. It's not how they connect. This is like what they do to connect with their friends. of people who play games at all, if you take the people who don't play games out, the U.S. Census Bureau says that gamers play an average of 2 hours a day. It's a massive amount of time. When we asked people who are using our platform, do they want to play with their games more? Do they want to play games with their friends more? They were all like 99% like, obviously yes, of course I want to play games more, of course I want to be with my friends more. When we asked why they weren't, what was holding them from that, 63% indicated it's because they don't properly make the time. 28% of them directly stating that is because there's not a structure. And that's where we're playing. So this exact area of we're creating recreational video gaming into a league and creating a structure around it. So putting it together, the high growth market, the individuals are very interested. We wanted to create mission control. We have 3 main revenue streams. The first is league fees. So just like fantasy sports, you can pay, there'll be free leagues, but there'll also be paid leagues. All 10 people or however many people are in the league can pay $10 per person to get in. The winner will get 90% of the pot and we'll take a 10% fee off the top. The second revenue stream is monthly subscriptions. Over time especially, we'll add special features that people can pay monthly subscriptions to get access to. So in some people, you could get statistics on what you're doing, references on how to improve if you would like that, mainly by licensing other technologies that are out there but that don't own or have access to existing markets of the casual gamer. One of the biggest things that we'll be looking at in this is highlighted, automated highlight replays. So you can basically get an immediate reel spun up of your 10 goals in FIFA against your buddy, and then you can send it to them and brag or tweet it out and show that you how you did that. All of these technologies already exist. They're not ours, but they're people that we have good relationships with, and we would license them through this platform and have a monthly fee on them. The last one would be advertising and sponsorships. We have a lot of interest in when you have this young 18 to 24 demographic and on your platform a lot, high engagement numbers. All our tests have good engagement so far. We could get access to different good sponsorship advertising deals. Right now, on the product side, we're working in this phase 1 where we did an early test last year, and now we're working in a new test right now at local universities and co-working spaces. So that's kind of why we're here today, to tell you a little bit about that. I'll get to more of that later. The next phase, we're firing up an entire dev team and a pre-seed round to fund that dev team to build a mobile application that will guide us towards scalability. And then lastly, we'll go into a growth phase of our product. For the revenue side, everything on the early side, on the testing, we're focusing on user growth and user testing. When we finally expand we're in some colleges now around the St. Louis area. When we scale to other colleges, we'll have a lot of revenue opportunities, but mainly user growth. And soon after that is when we'll be able to capitalize mainly on the revenue area. And then lastly, on the financing side, we just earlier this week we finished a friends and family raise of $100,000 that can give us about 7 months of burn. And then we'll be opening up a pre-seed in a few short months to fund a lot of the development and so on from there. Following that, we'll just look at different opportunities for growth funding. The team consists of right now, you have myself and Byron, both of us graduates of St. Louis University, and we both worked at Stadia Ventures with Tim Hayden and Art Chu before this. Byron ran the accelerator, and I was the venture associate. Stadia Ventures specializes in sports and esports, and that's where a lot of our knowledge of the space and connections in the space come from. My brother also was the original person who came up with the idea. He's a student at St. Louis University and covers user acquisition for us right now. Together we have 5.5 years in sports and esports VC experience. We have an experienced business mentor board that we create after noticing, well, we're obviously young entrepreneurs with little experience, and we appreciate mentors by watching what they do in the Stadia program, so we've got together a board of our own that can help guide us through this process. We're also getting together a board of talented industry experts that can help guide us through this space as well. Our asks today are rather simple. First, we are running a test league, an intramural, recreational video gaming league here at T-Rex for T-Rex members right now. It's going to be launching
next Tuesday.
Next
Mario Kart.
Tuesday. It's a Mario Kart league. So the biggest ask is if you're a T-Rex member, just to join that league, test it out, give us some feedback, and basically help us work out the kinks. And then secondarily is just help introduce us to people who can help us grow our product. Right now we're focusing on building team, getting solid feedback from people in the industry, and so on. That's what I have. Any questions?
You mentioned that you're having a Mario Kart tournament, and that's awesome. My question is, what little I know about esports, I heard one of the issues is when you're charging money or collecting money or anything with money, and you're using a copywritten or trademarked game or using a system that Nintendo uses that you have to get the rights for. How do you get around that?
So it's definitely a space that question specifically is getting teased out in a lot of different ways, and the small but not perfect answer to that is that if we are video game leagues for friends and not Mario Kart leagues for friends, then we are not specifically taking Mario Kart and using it. Well, we're creating a platform, and then we create a drop-down list of all the games that you could possibly want to play, and you just select. And because we're not advertising it directly as a Mario Kart league or a Fortnite league or something like that, as that is our business, what we're creating is structure and allowing you to use what's existing out there.
What if you're exchanging money?
That's the same case for that is what we've been told by our professional opinions there. At the same time, there is the reality that this hasn't necessarily happened before. This entire space is getting teased out. There's a lot to be determined, and different publishers, Blizzard and Nintendo, namely, are big sticklers on different small things, but then on other things are totally open for. So some of it's just going to have to be defined.
Like I've talked to you before, I've hosted a Smash Brothers event that's reached 25,000 people on Facebook before. One thing, there's a group, the rave scene. They have all these lights and stuff, and like they would host like Super Smash Brothers. Like there'd be like one kind of game system there. I think that'd be a good. This is thing called Turned Up Tuesday. It happens every Tuesday. I think that'd be a good test for your league. That's an event that happens every Tuesday. There's a bunch of people that play it. It's our age group. People have asked us to do it, but we don't have the capacity to run a league, a Smash league every Tuesday. But I think that would be a good opportunity for you guys to test out your subscription model.
Yeah, completely. And Smash is one of the most popular games, especially here in St. Louis. We'll talk after about that. Thank you.
What's your marketing strategy to get this out and get the word out?
Sure, great question, thank you. What we're focusing at the beginning is just focusing on growing through channels of groups of people that we think already play games, are already interested in this casual social nature of gaming. And a lot of that, basically boiled that down to a couple of channels that we want to test at the beginning. So the first three that we're testing right now, basically to see how well they work. Universities, because you already have the young demographic that are playing the games that we are generally offering, and the people who are already hanging out as a social experience, and normally they're playing games. So this is kind of like, we play games together in our dorm room in college, and that's what we're trying to evolve into a more structured experience. So that's college and universities. Second would be co-working spaces. You already have a community that isn't necessarily connected in that they're come from different companies, or you have to get opportunities to get together. Like this is one of them. Or what would be another opportunity to get together, get to know people from the community, and allow T-Rex to offer an amenity that makes it maybe one step better than other options out there. So co-working spaces is our second find, and then third would be traditional sports, going after traditional sports fans. So you have people who are the fans of the St. Louis Blues. How many fans of the St. Louis Blues also play NHL and then get to choose that they're playing as the Blues when they're playing their friends in NHL. So basically, we're using all three of those as channels and setting up partnerships within those areas so that it's free for us to be able to get to the end user, focus on user generation, and then identify from there what is the perfect demographic to focus after. Basically, maybe use digital marketing to grow from there. But focusing on channels first.
So you mentioned college and university as a channel. How do you specifically reach that audience?
Thank you. So the kind of one of the things that I've referred to earlier was how similar we are to college intramurals. Already at 1,100 universities, there are very robust intramural programs run by an intramural director who is that person's job, and this is like at St. Louis University, that person's job is to run intramurals and club sports. And intramurals are known for being this recreational experience. It's mainly social more than competitive. It's for friends and it's not taken too seriously, which is generally the area that we want to be played in. So in the 6 universities that we've gone to so far, we've gone straight to the intramural director and say, hey, we want to offer what you already do for traditional sports, but for esports. And our platform does all the work, so you just have to promote that this exists and then put up a t-shirt for the champion. And so far, each one of those conversations has been extremely smooth and easy, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. And we predict that to be able to go that way and so on. There are bigger organizations that run basically the software for these intramural organizers. IM Leagues runs it for 1,100 universities. There's another one called Infusionsoft that runs it for 300 universities. There's a group called NERSA, which basically is the association around intercollegiate recreation. They're meeting in Boston in 2 weeks, and they basically run that for 1,400 universities. Those are the sorts of groups that we could partner with to get into all these intramural directors very quickly.
Other questions?
So I know you said you were doing test leagues at T-Rex. Your target is mainly school, university, young youth people. You're not going to find the same group of people at T-Rex. So you might want to run several leagues at unis and so on, so that gives you more valuable feedback and user experience rather than the current generation of the entrepreneurs who are a little bit different, I would think.
Sure. I mean, you bring up an interesting point, and we definitely are focused on universities. We think that's the strongest area, but we don't want to assume it without testing elements as well. The average age of those 200 million gamers in the U.S. is 35. Gamers are 52% women, which you may come as a surprise. That's not what you generally think as a gamer, but out of those 200 million individuals, it's 52% women. So already, each of those items, 35 and women, are throwing off your stereotypical idea of a gamer. So we don't want to assume things either. Now, they play different types of games. The general games that you're thinking of, like the FIFA, the Call of Duty, Fortnite, that is, yes, teenage boys. And that is some of the easiest games for us to focus on first. There are a lot of mobile or kind of like Facebook games. Those are generally the games that women, and generally women basically 28 and older are playing, and we're not working with those right away. So it is a different market, definitely. But we don't want to assume that we can only apply to teenage boys.
And the second question I have is how, as a person like me who doesn't do any leagues and can help you?
That's phenomenal. First off, if you have anyone that you think in the video gaming space or anything that could be relevant to us, introductions or ideas would be extremely helpful. Any sort of feedback, pushback, ideas, all helpful. Secondly, if you have a kid, family, relative who likes video games or has friends that they play video games with, tell them about our platform. We generally have discovered that high school isn't the perfect demographic for us because they don't get to control their own schedule. If they get grounded, then they miss a week of our play in our leagues, and that's not exactly the perfect setup. But college kids, especially up to and up, generally to that average age of the gamer, 35, 40, all of that has gone together very well. So introducing it to people who could even test it right now, because we're still testing it, and give us good feedback, that would be valuable.
Do you have a patent or a trademark attorney right now?
We have attorneys that have that specialty in their firm.
Yeah, because you want to protect your product. But law firms, attorneys, they play fantasy games. If you can get a law firm to, compete against another law firm and do a test for you.
Yeah. The opportunity to do this for corporations is really interesting. Added on the idea that there could be some interesting data to find out, who are the best performers at this specific corporation and what type of games do they play, and then what kids in college are also playing that game, so we can recruit the right people. There's just interesting correlation data that could be taken from that as well.
So if I understand correct, so video game leagues in which a winner is able to take money, is that correct?
Correct. We offer free leagues and prize leagues as well, but yeah, that's one of the focuses.
So my question is, what responsible role are you taking? Because it's going to involve money, and we already see in gambling, people will ruin their lives over things like this. Are you taking a lead in responsibility, or finding a way to responsibly handle this environment?
We haven't necessarily thought of that direction yet. Right now, we only offer $10 to $100 leagues, so there's a little bit of a limit naturally. But I think you underlined a need for us to focus on that in the future, make sure we at least have a response to that. So thank you.
Me again, sorry about that. I was wondering if you set this up, could you set this up as a fundraiser for, like, let's say that, okay, my son plays on a basketball team. Let's say they want to have a basketball fundraiser, and they get maybe 20 kids, and I don't know, was it 2 leagues essentially or whatever, but everybody pays $50, but the winner doesn't really win anything but bragging rights. The money goes to the team. Do you have, or a nonprofit wants to set up a league for, to challenge other nonprofits, and the winner gets the pot, or whatever the case is. Are you able to set it up so that it's not just a winner takes the money, or if you win, place, or show, that it's, to go to a nonprofit or a company or a charity or something like that?
Yeah, certainly. Right now, we are offering different prizes depending on sponsorships or stuff that we have, and that's what we're building that towards, especially. If that's something that somebody wanted to do, sure, it would be very easy and helpful to have something up as well.
You could get school behind that. You could go to a kid's grade school and get all the kids in that school to sign up for various leagues and have like they win this league, and then they play for the championship, and the money still goes to the school, but they might get, bucks for the whatever.
Yep.
They might get cafeteria money or whatever. So.
No, and I think one of the other unique things about the approach that we're taking instead of traditional tournaments, I think it's similar to, I remember some of the fundraisers that we would do in grade school where it's more individual focused, or you're going to your extended family, or you're doing things like this. Instead of it being a single tournament where maybe it's only limited to school students, you could have the students that are the ones that are organizing it, but they're organizing it outside, and then you're getting more people involved, and there are more people that could potentially get some sort of prize in the end.
Well, you got to think PTOs are always looking for more money, always. So it's just it's a way that their kids already play games.
Yeah.
How does Mission Control compare with Discord? And the second question would be, if you have these teams that are already kind of pre-made, but how do you get new people in? Can you use your platform to get more people to join, make the team bigger?
Yeah. So first off, Discord. Discord is essentially Slack. For those of you who do not know Discord, Discord is like Slack for the gaming community. It has a couple extra features like voice channels specifically for multiplayer gaming. We use Discord. It's a phenomenal way to gather community, and gather community is kind of what we're all about. So we use it to get our leagues together and create spaces for them to communicate. So that's, first off, like Discord, great for that. If we're saying in the competitive nature, Discord does have the communities that we're kind of going after, but it has zero structure. So you would still, I'm on a couple Discord channels for some of my favorite games, and people just go on the channel, they're like, who wants to play right now? It still has the spontaneous nature of it, and doesn't have the structure, which is what we're trying to build into the recreational sphere. The second question was gathering more people. So what's nice about our product is that we have this little bit of a virality element, and that is every time we acquire one user and they create a league, they invite their 9 friends. Suddenly we have 10 users. And then if any of those users, just say 2 of them are like, this was really cool, next time I'm going to do 2 leagues, or next time I'm going to start one of my own with my own buddy, and then it's just kind of, there's just some natural viral growth to it. We've seen that so far in our early tests, and we're pretty excited about that. We don't have a good number on how good that element is right now. But that's why we want to go to colleges, because we can hopefully capitalize on that viral growth outside of the colleges.
But I think to add on that, I think part of it was how do you bring in new people if you maybe don't have a lot of friends. So for right now, the focus is primarily on existing groups, just because of just the structure that where we're at in terms of the product, what it can handle, things like that. Where we want to get in the future would be very similar to the way that when it's March Madness, you could create a private pool that's just your 10 friends that you're doing it with, but you could also join a public pool. Eventually, we want to be able to be at that point that, if you're creating a Mario Kart League and you only have 4 people, hey, who are 4 more people that might want to join this, we want to get there. The nice thing is with college, we're kind of testing that out right now in a contained environment, because you can invite all your friends, but there are also other people on campus that are getting involved. So in the future, we hope to be able to do more of that.
Okay, just a couple thoughts.
Sure.
One, so on your pricing structure, have you considered, for an example, for Fortnite, they charge like $60 a year for streaming for certain locations. Is your price going to be in addition to that? Are you going to try to incorporate that? What is that going to look like for the end user?
The end user would probably have to pay both separately. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most of our demographic is not going to be the competitive streamer or player, because we're going to be too casual for them, and that we want that. That's okay. We want to go after that 200 million person market of casual gamers, not the 30 million person market of people who watch and play on the competitive side of esports. Or even there's only 1.5 million people who actually play on the competitive side of esports. So those people we're not too worried about, because we're focusing on the larger market. At the same time, we are going to be trying to play in a space that's basically publisher agnostic, so that we can work with all the publishers, and we will be trying to set up partnerships with them. But I'm also thinking that a lot of them won't be necessarily that close of partnerships. It's going to be say, hey, we're going to set up a relationship that allows us to promote your game, allows us to basically extend the life of your game, but not necessarily integrate directly. At least in the early stage. We'll have to see where that brings us in the long run.
Okay, and then also on a marketing note, so I currently own a restaurant, and it just so happens tonight we are hosting our first Fortnite night. I've never tried this before. I've heard other companies who have tried it, and we're bringing some people in.
Good luck, sounds fun.
Yeah, but just for future, if it does work out, we continue to do this, I'd like to invite you guys out to show
Great,
that.
thank
Love
you.
to.
That's what you get for not wearing shorts today. So when you talk about sponsors, what are you looking for in sponsors? I mean, are you dealing with the big boys, small people, restaurant? So what are you dealing with as far as sponsors? Because I'm thinking the same thing she is. You said she's got an event going on tonight. I keep thinking about Venture Cafe on Thursday nights.
Yeah, for example, Venture Cafe on Thursday nights would be an awesome place for the community, for us to have, an entrepreneurship community, Mario Kart or whatever league. It would be a great, one more reason to go and network with people. That's kind of, again, gathering community. It's not very far off of Venture Cafe's mission as well. As far as sponsors, we'll mainly be trying to focus on the big guys, whether it's endemic or non-endemic, as in I don't care if it's gaming, like a HyperX keyboard sort of group, or Dell or something like that, or whether it's Pepsi, who has nothing to do with gaming but wants to get into the gaming space. We'll have a lot of opportunities to promote them, mainly through prizes or some sort of engagement through the actual leagues. So for example, say the Blues. The Blues want to find college-age students in the St. Louis area who are interested in gaming and promoting the Blues through their through the NHL game, but then also going to the games, we could essentially offer prize leagues where you get 2 free Blues tickets to play in this league with your friends. The winner gets the 2 tickets, and then everybody else gets a discount code. Blues get 10 names of people who care about the Blues and going to games, and then maybe a couple ticket sales as well.
And I can think of Dell and HP that want to do something on Picture Cafe at night where they want to give away, sponsor the event itself, and the prize would be like a laptop or something.
One of the most interesting data points that we find is that in a group of 10 people, especially if it's an in-person league, so they're playing in a dorm room, if you have 10 people playing a game, say it's FIFA, we know who owns the console, who doesn't own the consoles, who owns the game, who doesn't own the game, and who plays it. So we know, hey, in a group of 10 people, there are 10 people who are playing FIFA. Only 3 of them own the game. 7 of them enjoy FIFA, like playing, but don't own the game. I bet GameStop would like to know that information and more.
I have like 2. What's the difference between you and Challenge.com?
Great question. So we didn't really address the competition thought yet, and I'm glad you brought it up. So a lot of what's out there, and I've referenced it very briefly, is for the aspiring gamer or the aspiring professional. And Challenge.com, a lot of a lot of what's out there is very tournament based, and naturally these tournaments, especially when they offer large prizes of cash, they immediately have the professionals, the people who are playing 60 hours a week, the people who are really good, flocking to these tournaments and winning naturally. So when I don't play Fortnite that often, but I do enjoy playing it. When I want to go on and play with my friends, I don't enjoy losing or getting smashed so that it's not an enjoyable experience because I'm going to play against these professionals who are going to win anyways. All of these tournament sites are basically, they cater to the professionals because that's what they're going after. And I think that's great. I think it's a necessary part of the community. But it doesn't go after that 200 million person market of video gamers. It goes after this 1 million person market of professional players. So what we're trying to do is create this kind of set of these private leagues. So each league is 10 people. It's with friends. It's the same thing as I don't like to play DraftKings, because this daily fantasy 10,000 person entry has a whole bunch of really smart people on it, and they're going to win. They're the people who put in 1,000 entries at $1 a pop, and then have an algorithm to determine who they choose. Again, I think that's awesome, but I'm not likely going to win when I'm just picking my favorite players because they have a cool number or something like that. That sort of random nature doesn't fit very well against professionals. So we're trying to create a space again for the recreational player, and that's how we're different.
I was going to say, personally, I hate the interface of all the tournament platforms. If you can have a way where I'm running my tournament and with my voice I can say 1 or 2-1, and I can say, all right, 1-1, 2-1, because when I'm running a tournament, I have to be updated real time on what's going on, and I have to either walk around, go back to my computer, or I have to have runners from their play area run back to me with their controller and say, hey, and hand me their card and say, all right, I won, to keep the tournament rolling. If I can just say, all right, 1-1, and then we can close it off, that would be a competitive advantage that none of those other tournament platforms have.
Yeah, our technology would be able to do exactly that. So it would be all of that element, the validation of scores and so on would be completely automated. And ideally, that would make it really easy for you to run your tournament. But for now, we're going to stay very far away from the tournament space because we want to stay in a space where we're extremely different than everybody else who's out there. If we get big enough and it's an opportunity to grow, then we'll look at it as well.
I just have a quick question. How did you choose a name? Did you search on trademark whether anybody else is using the same name? There are lots of people using IC.
Yes. We did search trademarks to see if anybody else was using the name. Our full company name is Mission Control GG. Mission Control is good in the gaming space. And the name kind of, it shows the structure of what we're trying to create, and it also has like the excitement of, you know, rockets and gaming and putting all this all together. We like the idea of mission control because it's a whole bunch of people who have like gathered together to get to this, you know, common goal, and they each have their own specific role and specialty, and that's kind of where this idea started from. And eventually, whether it's, you know, in one space or digitally, we'd like to kind of continue gathering community and bringing it into the common goal of, you know, this social and recreational, enjoyable experience with their friends.
BJ has a comment about the T-Rex experience.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to join the inaugural league where we're going to be playing Mario Kart, it's every Tuesday. We're going to meet in the cafe here. Just play on that TV that you're looking at. To sign up, go to missioncontrol.gg/intramurals. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. We'll also have it cycling on the screens. It's in our newsletter. You can ask at the front desk and click on T-Rex. You'll also see Kobo, CIC also have leagues getting started. So ideally, it would be awesome if we can send the best T-Rexer to battle the top of Kobo, CIC, and see who wins. All right.
All right, and as we wrap up, you guys did a great job of already asking and letting us know what we can do to help you, but is there anything else you want to reiterate as far as how the community can help? I think you made your point pretty clear.
Yeah,
so I think if people have other ideas or
check out
want
our
to
site,
talk
give
to
us
them
ideas.
one-on-one, come up and do that. And so Tuesday it's launching here, and Tuesday you're onboarding with I-10, so Tuesday's going to be
It's going to be a full day.
game-changing
It's been a lot
day for you.
of
So-
full days recently.
All right. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on this rainy
Thank you all.
Wednesday.